I'm not able to. I think there is some issue with my headphone. I'm rejoining this meeting.
Okay, okay, sir.
Hello. Hello. I'm audible.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the last session, we covered the collection framework. So we cover all the classes like dictionary list, array list, right? So today we will discuss the exception, what is exception and how we can like handle the exception in the code. Say console F6. So basically, like exception handling is a technique to handle the runtime errors. So we can categorize the errors in the two ways. We have, let me open it. So so if we talk about errors, so we can further split this error into two categories. One is compile time errors, compile time, and second is runtime errors. Runtime errors. So compile time errors are like those errors like we are like writing a code and we did some syntactical mistake. We miss the uh, the bracket or a semicolon or a dot base, or maybe we are like create a class with a uh, capital C. It's supposed to be a small c, right? So maybe we are using some keywords, predefined keyword as a variable, like void is a predefined keyword, and I'm trying to use void as a variable name. So in this scenario, system will throw a runtime error, compile time errors. So program will not get compiled and it will not give any kind of output. So this is like basically the our IDE, the Visual Studio. So it will like tell us this and highlight that syntactical error with the red line, so we can immediately fix that. And the second one is the runtime errors. Runtime error is basically our code is okay. We use everything as per the standards, but when we execute the code, we start getting some errors. So during the execution, when we are getting the errors, that is called runtime errors. So today we will discuss how we can handle these runtime errors in our program so that the application will not get break during the execution. If we don't handle these runtime issues or runtime errors, so application will get crashed during the execution. So to prevent the crashing the application during execution, we use some technique that is called exception handling. So runtime errors are also called exceptions. So we need to perform exception handling. So there are like techniques to handle the exceptions. So one is try catch, and second we can use through keyword, and even we can create a custom exception classes. Custom exception class. So first we will discuss what is try catch, and finally final block, right? So let's discuss this try catch and final. So in the try block, whatever the code we write, we basically write inside the try block. So let's say these are the four or five line of code we write. So at this point, during the execution, system throw an exception. So if we do not use this try and catch block, so application get crash this moment and stop executing. But when we start using try and catch, it doesn't mean this exception will not give any impact. It will impact the program. Means to say, the application will not get crash. We can show a user-friendly message to the on the screen so that user can know, okay, this is the error, and maybe the input they are providing, it's the wrong input. They can fix that inputs and rerun the application. It will like successfully executed in that scenario. So in the try block, whatever the code we have, right, if there is any exception, so exception will immediately throw to the catch. Is this exceptions, or we can say catch will catch this exception, and in the exception in the catch block we mentioned the exception class here. Give me a minute, please. Okay. Yeah. So in the exception block, here we define the exception class. Let's say any exception class. Exception class. This is basically class. It's a predefined exception class. And in the catch block, we define we provide the handling step of this particular exception. Maybe we can print simply the user simple user defined message on the screen. Maybe we can reset the whole scenario, or maybe we can log the exception in the log file, or maybe in the database file, anywhere. So in this way, application will not get crashed. So system will be still in running stage. User will see the exception. We can track the exception, and user can restart the process from starting again. Okay, so let's create a small piece of code and try to understand how like this try and catch block is like working, and we'll understand what this exception classes are there. Okay. Okay, let's say I'm creating one function. Okay, let's do a very simple program just to understand try catch functionality. I'm just going to create a division operation. So I have, let's say, two variable x and y. Okay, there is an r variable, and I want to perform a division x divided by y, and I want to write console right line result is r. That's it. Okay, without try catch. So I just provided 10 and 20. Okay, and just executed it. Okay, let me write. Yeah. Okay, so 10 divided by 5 result is 2. So like program is working fine. And now I'm just changing the inputs. I'd say 10 divided by 0. Or if I, let's say, execute this function 3 times. One is 10 divided by 5. Second is 10 divided by 2, then divided by 10, and or say divided by 0, then 10 divided by 10. So basically I'm expecting 4 output on my screen. Okay, so but we have just 2. So 10 divided by 5 result 2, 10 divided by 2 result 5. When we are trying to divide any number with 0, so it's basically there is an exception. So we cannot divide any numeric with 0. So it's throwing an exception, that is divided divided by 0 exception. So when this function get executed at this point, so we are having runtime error or system. We can say at this point system get crash and not executed the next statement. It's not executing the next statement, right? Okay, so now we want to handle this situation so that this calling get executed, and at this point we can handle the exception on during runtime. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to surround these code with try and catch. Okay, let's do this. Try exception. Console.writeLine ex.message. Okay. Now I surround these two lines inside the try and provided the catch block. So if there is any exception, try will trace that exception and throw to the catch, and catch will handle that exception by just simply writing a exception message on the screen. Okay, now let's see we get 4 output or not. Yeah. So this time application is not, not getting crash. It execute successfully till last line. Say first we have like output as a 2, then 5. Then at this point we have exception. We cannot divide any number with the 0. But here we have now, we can say short message related to the exception, attempt to divide by 0. So we didn't get any result for this statement. Then after that, when we in the last scenario, system gets stuck at this stop at this point. But this time, after applying try catch, system move on to the next statement and provide me the result. 10 divided by 10, our result is 1. Right? Okay. So this is the like try and catch block. So try will trace the exception and catch will handle that catch the exception, and we can provide the handling for that particular exception. We can even give the user-friendly message as well. This is related. This message is related to, okay. This message is related to very exception classes. Why exception is there? It's saying attempt to divide by 0. If you want any user-friendly message, more user-friendly message, you can write your own message as well as a string saying error at this point, skipping it. Skipped the message. So here we can say we are giving a user-friendly message. Even you can give a error detail as well. So EX is basically exception class instance. If I write just EX, it will give me the complete detail like this. So it's giving me the class divide by 0 exception, attempt to divide by 0, and where I'm having the exception at line number 15. So line number 15 is this. So at this point, I'm having the exception while calling this method. So, but this is not for the end user. Maybe they will get confused. What is this? So we can, avoid EX. We can simply use EX.message. So normally we even don't do this. We basically try to log this exception in log file. Log file or DB anywhere, so that we can trace this exception in future, and we can work on the fix. Okay. Okay, so this is simple example for try and catch. Let's understand now what is this exception class. Okay, let me again remove this message. Okay, so here system is saying divide by zero exception. So this exception is basically related to divide by zero exception. Okay, uh, if I change this class to divide by zero exception. Okay, divide by zero exception. Okay, let me do one more thing. Now I'm giving one more calling. Let's say this value. To things will give me a so basically I'm trying to create a value as a result which will not get stored inside the result. I mean the R variable. So basically we are performing a division, so it will store in R. Okay, so next we can after range in 1 0. Yes. Mhm. Okay, we'll do it with another example. Okay. So not allowed. Cost. Okay, we'll do with some other variables. Basically, I'm trying to generate two exception in one code. Okay. Okay, coming back to the exception class. So exception class is basically a parent class. So if I did like this, divide by zero exception, and we can now say cannot divide by zero. Yes. So here, like this exception is now handled with particular class. right? With particular class. I'm not directly using the parent class one. Let me explain this. Let's say we have like hierarchies like this. So first we have the parent class, that is exception class. Exception class. This exception is a parent class. And further we have child class. Child class is like divide by zero exception. Zero exception. We have null pointer exception. Out of range exception or index out of range exception. Right? Or there's like not found something exception is also there, or a variable not found, not variable. Uh, like we can say DV exception. So these are like few child classes, right? So the parent one is the exception class. So let's say there is a try block, and we have like catch. If in the catch block, if I directly use this exception class, and let's say we have an exception, that exception is related to null pointer exception. Null pointer exception, this one. Then it doesn't matter the exception is related to which particular class, because we are taking care or handling with parent class. So parent class will handle any kind of exception. Maybe it's an index out of range exception, divide by zero exception. Divide by zero, we like if we try to divide any integer variable with zero, then it's like exist in the system. Okay, null pointer is a variable is there and its initial value or value is null, means to say there is nothing, but we are trying to use that value in our logic. Maybe a class we didn't initialize it, but we try to uh, try to access its property or method. So again, it will say the variable is null pointer exception. Index out of range exception is like we are defining any array with the size of 5, but we try to insert or access its sixth element. So it will say index out of range exception. DB exception is something related to database, like maybe a database connectivity issue or any something, then it will throw a DB exception. So for each exception, we can have different handling technique. Maybe if there is an exception, divide by exception, I just want to simply log this message in DB or in file. For the null pointer exception, I want to log it, or maybe I want to initialize that variable with particular value and re-execute the entire method so that user will get the correct information or correct output. For index out of range, maybe again I want to log it, or want to give a user-friendly message, we are trying to access the uh, invalid index, and maybe user remove that value or execute it. I mean to say we can have different handling technique for the different exception. But in case if we directly use this exception class, it means to say whatever the technique, the handling we have provided, it will apply for all exception classes. Maybe it's a null pointer exception. We are just simply displaying on screen console.writeLine. It will only display the error console.writeLine. So maybe it's a index out of range. It will again just simply display console.writeLine on the console, right? I, the main logic is I want to uh, create multiple catches for my try block. So if there is any exception related to divided, then this uh, handling logic get execute. If there is any null pointer exception, so we can do like this, handle a different way. If there is an index out of range, then we can do with some other technique, right? So we can create multiple catches with single catch. There is one main point. Let's say catch, I say it. Null pointer exception. Okay. And provide some logic for the null pointer exception. So now first catch we define with the parent, second catch we define with its child. Then in this scenario, second catch never get executed because the first catch is the parent one. Let's say there is an exception. So the flow will like this. First, it will go to the first catch. It will see, okay, this is a parent class. Parent class can handle any kind of exception. So this catch will get executed and exception will handle with this logic only, right? So when we are writing multiple catch blocks, so the parent supposed to be the last catch. Let's say I have like written logic for the divide by exception, null pointer, and index out of range exception. But I'm not sure. Apart from these three exception, maybe fourth exception is exists in my code, but I'm not sure about that. Then we can provide last catch as a exception class with the parent class. Then the parent will handle all the um, exception. Maybe it's related to DB exception, maybe a file not found exception or memory related exception. It will handle in the last block. Okay, let's try to create this scenario with multiple catch block. Okay, let me create this integer y as a null and store null. Let me just check it. Okay, now I'm creating a new method to do. So let's say I define an integer. Can use var x. and I'm giving 5 elements. Okay, let's do it with loop. Okay, so in method 2, I just taken an integer array and try to add elements using for loop. Okay, and now I want to perform division operation on array. Means to say, let's say if array x0 divide by any number. Let's say divide by 2. Okay, this number will be as a parameter. I will pass as a parameter. And what we have, okay, I think that is sufficient. So here we have like getting index out of range exception, right? So basically I intentionally raise this exception, index out of range exception. So like we define this integer variable x with the 5 elements, but I'm trying to insert a value in 6th element as well. It's less than equals to 6. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as well. Means a 7th element. I'm trying to add a 7th element uh, in in I. Means I, when I 7 is there, 6 is there, then it will try to add 10 plus I, means whatever the value is. So it will throw me the index out of range. Okay, now I'm just fixing this with I. Okay, I equals to 5. Here is same. I'm trying to execute it. Still. Okay. Listen. Let's start with 0. Yeah, 5 element. 5, 5, 6, 6, 7. Okay, so this is a basically result after division. Okay, so now I'm giving value. So first time I'm trying to access method 2 with parameter 2 and I'm giving 0. So now we have second first time with 0 parameter 2 parameter value with 2 it's execute successfully with but with 0 it's giving me divide by 0 exception. So we can say in our program we have two errors. One is divide by 0 error and second one is can be index out of range. If I change the condition I less than equals to 5. So it will throw me exception index out of range. Now I want to handle this exception with the try catch and want to handle give the appropriate message. If index out of range is there, then we can say index out of range. If it is divide by 0, then for the divide by 0 exception. So what we can surround this. Index out of range exception. Divide by 0 exception. Okay. Not valid. I'm executing this method one more time with some valid value. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's say I'm passing the index as a parameter instead of hard code. Index. So in this scenario, let's say 4, then 4. In the second scenario, first scenario will say 6. Index not valid, index not valid. Okay, okay, let me differentiate it. is A is this. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. The actually the output is correct. So so like we have multiple like we execute multiple time. So when we have exception, so the output of exception will display in the end of the execution, end of the program. So that's why it's like giving, but why it's giving both time index invalid. Supposed to be divided by zero as well. For this. Still index not valid. Which one? Saying index invalid. Its I index is this is basically saying 6. Okay. So 6, then yes, divide by 0. And for this, this only divide by 0, right? For the first scenario, this is 7 index. This value index this. Yeah. Okay. So now we can see the two exception. So when we execute the very first time, method 2 with the parameter 4, 4 is the index, and the 2 is the value for division operation. So when we pass a 4 as an index, so x will initialized with the 4 indexes, but the loop will execute till 5. So at this point, it will throw an exception index out of range. Okay, and for the second time, the index value is correct, but we are performing division operation by 0. So at this point, we will like having exception divide by 0 exception. So in that case, this exception catch block will get executed. For the third one, there is like proper index is there and proper value is there, no exceptions. So the try block will completely execute it successfully. So like this way, with the multiple catches, we can handle a particular exception as well. Okay, let's say if I do like this, parent class, parent exception class as a first catch block. Just simply saying error. See, it's giving me compile time error, but it's saying the exception that you throw when to attempt is made to access the element of array. Okay, not this one. Yeah, the previous catch cause already catches all the exception of this, so of the super type exception class. So basically it's saying the previous is this one. So this will handle all the exception class. So this has become useless in our code. So it's like system itself is saying it will never get executed. We can remove it if we are using first catch as a exception, super class or a parent class. So this supposed to be the last class, last catch block. So if there is an exception related to index, this will get executed. If there is an exception related to divide by zero, then this will get executed. If exception is still exception is there, but not related to index or divide by, then this exception last parent block will get executed and say there is an error. Okay. So this is the final output. So we handle the two exception in our code, and but still we able to complete our complete the code. Okay. Okay. And we have one more block, try, catch, and finally block. So as name, its name is finally. Finally means to say it will get executed in any condition. If there is an exception in try or not, finally block will be get executed in the code. Means the flow will be like this. If there is an exception in try, the flow will be try, catch, then finally. If there is no exception, then flow will be try and finally. So in a both scenario, finally will be getting executed. Let's say I'm just writing console.writeLine completed the question. See, so every time we having a message, like first we have execute this first method. There is an exception with index out of range. So it's giving me first it start with a try. There is an exception, catch, handle that exception. Then it's again finally it execute the final block. So output is completed the execution. With the second attempt, we have divide by zero exception. So same scenario, try, there is exception, then divide by zero, then final block. In the third attempt, there is no exception in the code. So result is try, then final. Okay, so final block will execute every time, and that is sure it will execute. Okay, so what type of code we supposed to write in the final block? So final block is used to we use to let's say we initialize some variables in. Let me explain. Let's say we create a try block. Right? So in try block, let's say we have any custom class. We obj equals new cust class, right? We provide the memory to this object. Now this object exists in the memory, in a heap memory, let's say obj, right? We uh, we call it some custom method one. It's performing some particular operation. Then obj2 method 2, right? Let's assume there is an exception in method 2. any exception, null pointer exception, let's say. So we handle that in catch block. So for handling, we just log this exception in file. Log the exception. Right in file. This is the handling technique. But still, this object exists in the memory. Operation, we handle the exception, right? Program will not get interrupted. I mean, so not crash. The application will not get crashed. We log that exception. So in future, we can check and resolve the exception. But still, this object exists in the memory. I want to release this object from the memory. So what we can do, I can write this kind of operation in final block. Finally block. Let's say this is not defined in here. We define outside the catch. Cust obj. Just declaration part. Initialization is inside the try. Now I want to release this object. So forcefully I can call the dispose method. So that in any scenario, if there is an exception or not, my dispose method will get executed on this obj so that the memory, we can clean the memory or dispose the unused object from the memory. Or similar, like we initialize a DB connection in try block. After the operation, I want to release this DB connection. So the releasing the DB connection code can be written inside the final block. So we will release the connection. So let's say when we execute the try block create the DB connection, and maybe there is an exception. This connection will be exist in the system. I don't want unwanted connection in the memory. So we can release this DB connections code right inside the final block. So the purpose of final block is this: to release a memory. We can provide the closure statements. So in any scenario, this final block will get execute and release the memory or unused object. Okay. Uh, Vivek.
Yeah.
Vivek?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is all about like try, catch, and final. So I supposed to cover the custom exception as well. Just yeah, throw and custom exception. So, but we will discuss these two things by tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
If you have any doubt in a previous class, you can tell me. We can discuss as well.
Don't have any doubts.
Okay. 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 That's it. That. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.